Hey there, and welcome to Your Ministry Matters. I'm Stacy Pelock, and I'm so glad that you have chosen to watch today. We have got two wonderful women here today on Your Ministry Matters. They are with Golden Hearts Ministry. It's Christy Brantley and Holly Usher. And ladies, welcome today.
Thank you.
Y'all doing okay today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad that we were able to get together and sit around the table and allow you some time to talk about what God has brought to the two of you and the ministry that He is birthing through you all. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share that and to share your heart. And Holly, I believe you're going to start us out and just tell us about Golden Hearts Ministry and how it got started, where it was birthed out of. Because I always know that it doesn't just start itself. There's something else. There's a story, I think, behind the story. And I think that you want to share that part.
At Golden Hearts, we're a nonprofit ministry, and it's rooted in Isaiah 61:1, which says, as His anointed, that we're to share healing to the brokenhearted and freedom to those who are bound. Mm-hmm. And our motto is that we want to love people to Jesus. Oh. And our approach to that is through inner healing, prayer ministry, and discipleship. And the mission is that others would find freedom and healing in Christ by knowing who they are and their identity in Him. Yes. And you hear this saying that hurt people, and for us, we believe free people can free people. Yes. And so it got started back in 2013. I went to a recovery home for addiction. I went to Freedom Hill, and while I was there, I met Christy. Mm-hmm. And during the second portion of my program, she was my mentor, and it's really my story that her and her family, but that they loved me to Jesus. I was at that point a recovering addict and a professing homosexual, and had been for 20 years, and got saved while I was in that program, delivered from the addiction and homosexuality. And during the program, I learned how the physical, spiritual, and emotional are all connected. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so when I was saved, I was also healed of fibromyalgia and Crohn's and some problems in my lower back. Wow. So I've experienced all of that firsthand. And it wasn't long after that God called me to ministry, actually at a Jesus Culture conference, and burdened me for those struggling with homosexuality. And at first, I was like, really, Lord? And He said, well, who better to talk with them? Yeah. So I spent about a year praying about that, what's that supposed to look like, and then started speaking and sharing my testimony. And then in February of this year, He called me to leave my job and pursue this full-time. So that's what I've been doing.
Wow. And so in doing the ministry part, you go out and speak and...
Yes, ma'am. It's kind of two parts. Okay. I can go and share my testimony and speak to different groups, and we have ministry time afterwards, or we also do the inner healing sessions. And I'll let Christy tell you a little more about that, the individual.
Okay. Well, I was just saying, we met at Freedom Hill. I started volunteering there probably 3 months after she started the program. And she finished the 12-month program. We started the Servant Leadership Training Program, and I was the director of that. So that's how I became her mentor. That's how that all came about. I have taken a lot of classes in physical healing, inner healing, about to start some classes in deliverance. And through the Servant Leadership Training Program, she started learning, and the other girl that was with us, we were working together in that. We ended up leading an inner healing class at Freedom Hill together, and just using the different strengths and weaknesses, the things that we have learned through our own experiences for that class. And it really worked well as a team. So the ministry is sort of a twofold. She goes and speaks. We have ministry afterwards, where we prayer ministry or whatever people need, and then the other hand of that is the one-on-one inner healing sessions. Also feel like God has birthed some things in me that we use in the ministry. Like, I really carry a lot of peace, and bringing back purity of physical touch that the enemy has kind of sort of destroyed.
Right.
And we've noticed there's so much healing in physical touch, and through a hug, even where people receive peace through a hug, or just that touch, that they get God's love through that touch.
Right.
He's really, really put that in my face, like over and over with different people. And also, he showed me this scripture of Lazarus where he was raised from the dead. And Jesus called him out of the tomb for life. He brought him back to life. But then he asked those around him to unwrap him. And he said, that's what I want you to do, is be an unwrapper. He said, there's so many believers walking around with new life in their heart, but they're still wrapped up. They have bondage.
In grave clothes.
Oh, yeah, the grave clothes all over them.
Wow,
So that's what he has
awesome.
said that we're to do, not only with pre-believers, but believers. I mean,
Sure.
you walk around, I'm saved. Why do I still sin? Why am I still in
Yes.
bondage? What is going on?
Right.
And so he showed
So
us
they're
through
bound by
that.
the grave clothes,
All
the
the
old,
junk,
yeah.
all those old ways of thinking. And
What a beautiful picture the Lord paints.
I know, it's so cool. He's
I
so
do.
cool.
I love that.
So that's the two parts. Is so an inner healing session really is basically sitting down with someone one-on-one and just listening to their story. What are you struggling? What is it where are your hurts and your pains? And talking to them about their past, because so many things are from past experiences, even as a child or even in the womb, things that happen to us, and going back to those things and finding out what happened and what are you carrying from that, and just walking them through that and bringing Jesus into that situation. People walking around in so much hurt and pain, if they don't go to Jesus, they go to other things to numb that. Drugs, alcohol, sex, food, whatever, to numb that pain. And there's freedom.
Yes.
Like we all three know, there's so much freedom. And, when you experience that yourself and then you experience it with other people, you want that for people so
Absolutely,
bad. You want to offer that to them. Right. So that's
Well, let me ask you,
do.
What do you charge for you to come speak and for the one-on-one sessions? Is there a charge for that?
There's no charge. We are a nonprofit. We've gotten our nonprofit status now. After I left the job in February, I spent the first few months getting us incorporated in nonprofit, and then just really a time of fasting and praying and what's this supposed to look like and getting our roots. I think your foundation and roots are so important. But it's all nonprofit. I mean, it's all tax-deductible donations that we're funded by. So there's no charge to come and speak. We have spoken, and people will give a love offering.
Sure, yeah.
But even the individual sessions that we do, there's no charge. So it's all based on...
But you take love offerings and things like that.
Yes.
So you run off your that's...
Yes.
Hey, I always say God's will, God's bill.
Yeah.
So you're really trusting that.
Oh, yeah.
And that level of trust means so much when you're doing ministry, because when you're not focused on money, you can do ministry a whole lot better, can't you?
Yeah.
Knowing that He's going to take care of that and bring the right people to
And
pour in.
he already has started. And, you know, and I think people see what God's doing and they want to sow into it and be a part of it. And we trust that He'll do that.
Yes, He will. He most certainly will. So tell me a little bit about some of the sessions. What do they look like? I mean, you kind of went over that a little bit. Like if a lady calls and is struggling, and she comes, what would be the first thing that she would you involve her in?
Normally, it takes about 2 hours.
Okay.
A little longer than 2 hours, you start getting kind of tired. So 2 hours is about the limit. Just, to me, it's a lot of listening to someone with one ear and listening to the Lord with the other, so that you're hearing what He's saying about them and the situations. Right. But, it may take, depending on the person, how open they are, it may take a few weeks for them to really get to trusting you and knowing you. And we've had one that the day we met, she just laid it all out.
Just ready. Yeah, they're ready.
For some healing. So, but just talking about what it is that you've gone through, what is it you're struggling with, and asking questions as the Lord leads you. And there's some of the training we have, it's like a tool belt of things like, okay, well, let's pull this out or let's pull this out. What is it is there a father issue in the past? Was there abuse in the past? Is there... Whatever it is, and going there.
You identify it, and then
going to the roots, or getting to the root of whatever's going on, and bringing Jesus there and praying through. And there may be forgiveness of themselves or forgiveness of others. There may be soul ties to break or judgments or just all kind. Just whatever it is God brings up, then you deal with that.
Okay.
Closing the door to the trauma or the event that happened, and then allowing Jesus to come and bring healing to that.
Yeah.
Because there's such a connection, like we're talking about, between physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all connected, and people that even have physical ailments healed once they forgive someone.
Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah, we have
numerous
experienced
times.
that a lot, and
I've
they don't
experienced it
realize
myself.
that's possible. You
Right.
know,
And we do fail to make that connection because I don't know that we've really been taught that there is a connection. But oh my goodness, you get that bitterness out and you find that freedom, you're going to be healthy.
Oh yeah, and then bringing that on to other people.
Yes.
Just keep passing it on to others.
Yes.
And it may be that we meet once a week or every other week, depending on the person, and just as long as it takes. You know, there's not a set.
Okay.
It's so much led by the Lord that there's not a set.
Sure. You let him just lay it out. Now
Right.
let me ask you this. Do you have a location you meet at each time? Where do you meet with these ladies?
Well, we're out of Habersham right now. That's where our home base is. But we can go, as far as speaking, we'll go anywhere.
Okay.
And as far as meeting with individuals, we try to, it's kind of individualized. As far as where they're located, we can travel or meet. We have other ministries that are willing to work with us and give us a safe place to
L.A.M.S
meet.
being one of them. Yeah.
Yes.
So we had a place in Toccoa that did the same, and so yeah, it just depends on where they are, and
Right.
yeah, but we'll find somewhere.
Okay, that's good because that kind of makes it where you can just be mobile. You can just move around and kind of do like Jesus did, right? Go to the sick and the hurting and the brokenhearted. And I love the visual of Lazarus and unwrapping those grave clothes, because so many people, you're so right, are wearing that and they're healed, they're free and there, but they need to get rid of some of the old stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to understand too that we're not just for, as we call them, pre-believers.
Right.
That even as believers we carry hurt or unforgiveness and stuff, and that it's open for anybody.
So what would you say to a lady that finds herself in a cycle? Like she goes to church, she's faithful to read the word, but yet she's still finding herself struggling with just whatever, but there's a cycle there. How would you proceed with a lady like that? I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit.
A lot of prayer and listening to him, because he knows exactly what they need or where they've been.
So you just
and
sit
he'll
with
bring
them
up
and-
things. He'll bring up, like, ask them about their dad.
Uh-huh.
How's your relationship with your
So
dad?
your discernment has to be fine-tuned.
And he may just bring up a word, San Francisco, and like, you ever been to San Francisco? Does that mean anything to you? And they're like, oh, whatever. But just letting him bring to
You have to be
a word.
really in tune with
Right.
the Lord.
And like I say, some people just spill it out there. And then some people, it's more of a process of listening and waiting and
listening and
Yes.
pulling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just and waiting on him and being a good listener.
And we've had even one of the ladies we've met with before that came to receive Christ, in one of our sessions, and that's then where the discipleship kind of comes in, is then walking with them through that.
Good. Now, do you do any kind of group studies or
At
looking
this
to
point,
do?
we don't.
You don't. Okay.
It's not that we may in the future. It's just right now mostly as far as speaking to groups,
You
but we
do
don't
that.
hold groups.
And what kind of types of groups do you speak to,
I'll
Holly?
talk to anybody.
All right.
Which is so, people that know me know that's was not my character. I was so shy growing up. But yeah, Sunday school classes, youth groups. I've spoke at a ladies' conference. Anybody,
Church services.
Church service, civic groups, FCA, anything. Because, and what we found, and there's not an age, there's not necessarily a demographic. I've spoke to several Sunday school classes of, say, 60 and above. Every group that we've spoke to, somebody in the group has been affected, whether them or their family, with some part of my testimony. If it's abuse, drugs, homosexuality, anger, it covers so many areas that almost everybody can relate. So
Sure they can. And don't you find it very rewarding that you can take your hurts and help someone through that?
well, I know he used, there was a purpose in all of it,
But
and
you had to come to that point to where you didn't begrudge that anymore.
oh yeah,
That you
if-
embraced it
if-
almost and said, God, I know this happened, but like the enemy wanted to mean it for evil, God can turn it to good.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah, and just to, take what you've gone through and hope
Yeah.
someone else can benefit from, your trials or whatever you went through. If it can save them a little bit of pain, it's worth it. Or if it leads them to Him more,
I had a guy tell me one time, when we testify, we're actually prophesying over other people.
Yeah.
What God can do for them. That when we share that, that we're actually encouraging others.
And it gives people so much hope, because I think
Yes.
you don't know what's possible if you haven't seen or heard that,
That's
So
true.
to see or hear that then gives
Yes.
somebody else hope. Hey, that is
That's
possible,
right. Because we see all the rotten fruit out here and the way people live and the things they struggle with. And like you were saying, Christy, there's always a root to that. And you have to get in there, identify the root, and then start digging it out little by little, don't you?
And the key to so much of it is just loving people where they are.
Yeah.
And even in today's time, that to love somebody doesn't mean you agree,
Sure,
And
I do. That's,
so it was at first when we were at that conference, and the speaker said, pray for God to put a people group or a nation or something on your heart, and immediately it was the gay community. And I was like, really, Lord? Because I just got delivered from this. And He said, well, who better to, and the same with the addiction and things, they can relate.
Yeah.
You've been there,
Well, and I think when you've gone through problems and pain, you have a deeper passion. And then that's purpose in it too, So, who better than to relate to that?
For them, just to anybody, to feel loved no matter what. And I know there was things in my past that people didn't agree with but loved me anyway. And that makes a huge difference.
Sure it does.
I mean, even with their family at Freedom Hill, getting to know them and them just accepting me, it was at first like, why would they do that? They don't know me, and I know they don't agree with my lifestyle, but they love me anyway.
And love is so powerful.
Well, it breaks down so many walls and
Yes.
defenses, and
It does.
so.
And it takes away the behaviors and things that are out here and gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? When that love is there, especially when it's agape love, unconditional and just available. We have a lady here that gives her testimony. In one part of her testimony, she says, regardless of how dirty your feet are, Jesus will still wash your feet. And I think that's what I hear you saying today, Holly.
And there's a lot of
Regardless.
hope, and she encourages people she talks to that don't give up praying for someone. Like her mom and grandma especially, and others prayed so many years, and so many people in the county like, I remember praying for you, and I remember praying, I remember your mom, and that hope that He is listening, He is working.
And
Don't
His
give up.
timing is perfect. His timing, it's all in His hands.
And I know even with like I said, I know my family prayed for 20 years, but, not that I know they would have wanted it a lot sooner, but to see what I've come through now and can touch so many more people. So, but for others, don't give up on your family or whoever you're praying for, just because He will answer.
Yes, He will. Yes, He will. We just have to be faithful and trust Him. And the name Golden Hearts, is there any significance to that at all? Golden Hearts?
There is. After I got saved, I had given my testimony about 2 weeks later, I guess, down at the pond, and we were still praying through. When I got saved, immediately got healed of the Crohn's and fibromyalgia, but still had trouble with the disc in my back. And we were praying about that, and afterwards, her daughter, Emily, and another guy was praying with us. Anyway, that night my back was healed, but while they were praying, God was speaking to him, the guy that was praying over me, almost in a medical type terms. And so he just asked me, he said, "Do you want a new heart?" And I was like, "Well, sure." And so as they were praying over me, I felt something, but she actually saw God take the old heart and put it behind his back and put the new heart. And it felt like a zipper.
Wow.
So I felt it. And then
it was this really big glowing golden heart thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then at another conference we were at, probably at least a year later, we were just in the middle of worship, and I just felt God's presence just come over me, and I felt like Jesus was just standing right there in front of me, and I sat down because it was so overwhelming, and he just got down on his knees and said, "Would you like a new heart too? No, he said, "Would you like a golden heart too?" I'm like, yes, yes. And it was like I could just see or feel him just like, whoop, this little.
Wow.
And afterwards I told Holly, she goes, "That's the name, Golden Heart Ministries."
So that's where it come out of when...
Because we're being refined, aren't we?
Yeah.
And a new heart.
Totally
Oh, that's
refined.
great. I'm glad he whispered that in my ear to ask y'all where that came from, because that's awesome. I love it. I love those stories like that.
So it was
how
like
God
a
works.
year after we were called before we even had the name, because...
Yeah.
But that night, I mean, as soon as she told me
Perfect.
that story, I was like, that's it.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. That fits perfect. Well, I just want to tell you, Christy and Holly, your ministry matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
For more information, you can go to our website, www.goldenheartsministries.com. You can also email us at goldenheartsministries@gmail.com. And we also have a Facebook page, Golden Hearts Ministries.